Bonjour tout le monde, merci beaucoup à Monica d'avoir organisé ce symposium. So we will also mix between French and English, and we have way too much to say, so please interrupt us when needed. And actually, our presentation follows really nicely from Mireille. We'll also speak about bilingualism, and our focus is on international students' perceptions and experiences at the University of Ottawa. So we are part of a broader project, and among the things what we're looking at are issues of resilience and mobility. And for our project, we decided to focus on Francophone or French-speaking and English-speaking students at the University of Ottawa. As you are probably aware of being connected to universities, that international students have become one of the largest groups of migrants over the past few years as part of the broader trends of globalization and race for global talent. And there's a new niche of research around the mobility and higher education nexus. Canada, among other countries, has been relying increasingly on international students who pay higher tuition fees to support our post-secondary institutions. Within the literature, there's also a growing field that is very interdisciplinary, with a focus, among other things, on language proficiency, but also issues of academic success, social mobility, transnational networks, and also questions of achieving permanent residence in other countries. For our specific project that we're presenting today, we look more closely at the literature on English language proficiency among international students. What we found is the majority of studies that look at language proficiency among students focus primarily on English language, because international students go mostly to countries where English is the main language of post-secondary education: the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, and so on. A lot of this research, in fact, focuses specifically on some groups of students, more particularly from China, among other things, because they're one of the largest groups of international students. But because our context is a bilingual universities, we found relatively little studies that look at contexts where English is not the main language or where there are multiple languages. And here we turn to current research on bilingual and multilingual education, including our colleagues who are located at l'ILOB. For a theoretical framework, we're going to draw on the concept of linguistic capital, which I think connects to what Mireille just said. It builds on Bourdieu's notions of capital, including cultural, social capital, among other things. And it's been used among a few scholars to look at how immigrants or migrants acquire skills in the dominant official language of the country, particularly to achieve economic values, so from a professional mobility perspective. Some studies, in fact, conceive of linguistic capital as having an economic value, particularly with regard to employment, but there are also non-economic values, so activities that are not necessarily related to employment. So because our group, we are geographers, we were particularly interested in our data. What we hope to show you is that, in fact, linguistic capital combines with space, with geography and context, and this is what we'd like to show you. So the objectives of our project included to document how international students experience, perceive, and negotiate language in different spheres of activity, including academics, employment, everyday life, social interactions at the University of Ottawa. And in particular, a more theoretical objective was to look at the links between space and linguistic capital. So our research questions are, how do international students navigate and perceive the complex language geographies, which I'll explain shortly, particularly because Ottawa-Gatineau and the University of Ottawa have very asymmetrical bilingualism. And to what extent do they exercise agency? Like, how much power do they have over their experiences of language and bilingualism, including to learn the other official language? So today it's raining here in Ottawa, but the tulips are out and you can get a sense of how beautiful it can look. So Canada as a country has 2 official languages, and in Quebec is primarily English speaking. New Brunswick is officially a bilingual province, but the rest of the country is mostly English speaking. But there are pockets of official language minority communities, as was suggested in the previous presentation. Ottawa-Gatineau is a unique geographical region linguistically because we are at the border between Quebec and Ontario, and the very uneven language geographies with English and French, as well as other non-official languages increasingly through immigration being present, but unequally distributed across the territory, including a significant Francophone minority in Ottawa and a significant Anglophone minority in Gatineau. So the context is very interesting because of these very fluid language geographies that are constantly changing as new immigrants, including international students, are settling in the region. Now, the University of Ottawa is the largest bilingual English-French university in the world. And it has 2 different complementary mandates, as we will show. One is to promote bilingualism, which is done by offering academic programs in both languages, but not all programs are fully bilingual. Some programs are English, others are French, some are both. So it's a very complex and messy situation. But the campus itself is fully bilingual with staff, services, and other programs being fully bilingual. The University of Ottawa promotes bilingualism through a variety of strategies, including through French immersion programs, free English and French as second language courses, which are offered mostly at ILOB, and interestingly for us, a differential tuition fee for international students who study primarily in French. So they pay less tuition or tuition equivalent to Canadian and permanent residents, not the same fees as international students. But in practice, the experience of French and English and other languages on campus is very messy. Meanwhile, the University of Ottawa, like other universities across Canada and the world, are recruiting more international students, and there's also been more support for those incoming international students, including through the International Office that offers orientation and mentorship programs, buddy programs, and so on. So in the past 10 years, roughly, you can see that the number of international students increased from overall about 5% to almost 20%. And this is especially so in graduate programs where 1/3 of students are international. The majority of them enrolled in English-speaking programs. And obviously, COVID has altered a lot of this. So here, to give you a sense, on the right, you can see an image of a sign on campus with French usually appearing first and English second, but everything being bilingual. And the graph on the left is giving you a sense of the increase of international students, particularly undergraduate English-speaking, but also English-speaking graduate and to a lesser extent, French-speaking graduate students. So I'm giving the floor to Shihao, who will tell you about the rest.
Thank you, Luisa. So for methodology, we adopt a qualitative ethnographic approach. Be more specific, we conducted semi-structured interviews with 19 international graduate students. So 13 of them are English speaking and 6 of them are French speaking. We we recruited them through posters, social media, and campus networks. So for interview, we include a bunch of things. On the right-hand side, you can see we have pre-arrival awareness of university, post-arrival experiences, and as well as their post-graduation plans. And we conduct thematic analysis of interview data. And I think it's important for me to talk about my positionality as one of the interviewers, and myself as a former international student. I was considered as an insider because I share experience with our research subject. And I'm also an outsider because my cultural background as a Chinese international student might not as, okay, we only have 5 minutes left, let's go fast. One of the limitations of our methodology is small sample size because we only have 19 participants. However, if you go to the next slide. However, we include a diversity of participants' profile. One main thing I want to highlight is the diverse countries of origins. So we have participants from almost all regions of the world: Africa, Americas, Asia, and Europe. And we have participants who are both from across the age range, and both male and female, and they've been in Canada for a variety of length of time. And in terms of their academic profiles, they're from different faculties, and there are 2 participants are in bilingual program, which we'll talk about it later. Yeah, so they have a variety of language skills. And as you can see from this table, only 1 English-speaking participant has indicated bilingualism as a challenge in their academic studies. And the reason of that is because most English-speaking participants, they can complete their degree in English entirely, while if we see French-speaking participants, 4 out of 6 of them consider bilingualism as an issue. And the reason of that is because bilingualism operates very differently in different programs. Some programs has more French, some programs has more English. And our French-speaking participants indicated that they have fewer courses offered in French, and reading materials were exclusively in English. So like journal articles and textbooks were in English. And a lot of programs has a lack of Francophone students in culture. That really depends on the departments, as you can see in the quote. There are 2 English-speaking participants who were in programs with bilingualism requirements, but they had complete different experiences. And the reason of that, again, is the asymmetrical bilingualism in different programs. So for this participant, her courses were labeled as bilingual. However, she said we have a lot of discussion groups, and most of it is in English because everybody is more comfortable speaking English. Versus the second participant, his program has a lot of Francophone professors and students. So sometimes when he has to attend meetings, they were supposed to be bilingual meetings, a lot of it was in French. And that caused a lot of issue for his academic success. And in terms of employment, it's important to talk about the context of City of Ottawa and Gatineau. It's a bilingual city, and as a capital city, federal government is the single largest employer in the region. And because to cater both English and French-speaking population, a lot of service jobs are also in both English and French. That creates challenges particularly for our English-speaking participants. However, for Francophone students, a lot of them are actually, in fact, bilingual. And the reason of that is because they were studying and living in a city that is actually very much English dominant. So they have a lot more opportunities or more requirements for them to be bilingual. And so the bilingual requirements are actually beneficial for Francophone students for that particular reason. But for English participants, as you can see in the quote, for on-campus job, particularly because all services are provided in both English and French, they have experienced challenge in seeking employment on campus as well as off campus. But there are occupations that do not require bilingualism, particularly in engineering field or some more tech field, as you can see in that quote. So next topic is perceptions of bilingualism. Luisa, do you want to talk about it? Yeah.
Thank you. So very quickly, in the perceptions of bilingualism, we found that students' perceptions of bilingualism vary depending on the linguistic capital. So for some of them, Gatineau, Ottawa, or other cities were more bilingual depending on the language that they spoke. So one of our participants who was English speaking and lived in Gatineau really struggled with French. So his perception was that Ottawa and Ontario are more bilingual than Quebec because he's English speaking. So when he's in a context where English is dominant, he perceived it as being more bilingual. In contrast, another participant who had done her undergraduate degree in Montreal, she thought that in fact Ottawa wasn't quite bilingual. And she said, well, compared to her experience in Quebec, French is a lot more prominent and present. So for her, bilingualism in Ottawa and in Ontario was a lot more diluted. So this is how we want to show that the role of linguistic capital and past experiences influences perceptions of bilingualism. So, Shihao, what do you want to do? I think we have to stop.
We can go to the conclusion.
We can go to the conclusion.
Yes.
So we had more things to say, particularly around the politics of language that Francophone students perceived, but we'll go ahead to the discussion and conclusion.
Yeah, so basically the conclusion is international students' perceptions and experiences with bilingualism are shaped by their linguistic capital. So whether they are Anglophone or Francophone students and their skills in different languages, as well as the language dynamics in different social spaces. So geography matters in our students' experiences. Their on-campus and off-campus experience are very diverse, are very different, as well as in different regions. So in Ottawa or Gatineau. And also the spheres of activities also matters, whether it's in academic studies, employment, or language learning, their experience varies. So yeah, and the main reason is the fluid and uneven bilingualism across different programs, as well as in different spaces in the region. Yeah.
Yeah, so we want to thank our research team. We had more people who couldn't be here with us today, and we look forward to receiving your questions.